Right guys, I've been asked the question, what does Samurai Shinobi do when somebody dies? How do they mourn the dead? Now, there isn't a straight answer for this, and it isn't about them being samurai or ninja. It's about them being Japanese, really. But there are some extra layers to it because they are from the warrior culture. So basically, in Japan, Buddhism deals with the dead. Now, this is a little bit weird because Buddhism deals with the dead and Shinto doesn't. Shinto, like, gets rid of all death. They hate the idea of something dying or being dead nearby. But the origin of Shinto is the worship of the dead. So this is a little bit crazy, this. So originally, when a house, we're talking prehistoric Japan, early, Iron Age or whatever. I don't know the dates exactly, but you're looking at, pre-civilization, if you like, as the term we understand it, as in the common parlage. Basically, you used to have houses, and when somebody died in it, they'd leave the house to just rot, and the corpse would go in it because they just build a new house. Then it's not like, it's not that difficult. It's like a bit of a hut, and that is supposedly where you get the idea of a Shinto house is from, because the dead are left in their house and the dead are there inside of their house. So you build little houses on your shrine for the dead, but yet a Shinto shrine, which is technically to house the dead, will not have the dead anywhere near it. But Buddhism does. It has the funeral, they have pyres outside, they will bury people, they have gravestones, they actually pretty much deal with the dead. Which is bizarre, considering Buddhism actually is about you moving on from the corporeal, if you like. Corporeal? It's too early in the morning, sorry guys. But basically you get this idea that the dead is shared between Shinto and Buddhism. But of course, what we do know from the Book of Samurai series, from the scrolls from the 1600s, is that if someone dies at war, then you have to say the right prayers and the right services for it. So if somebody gets their head chopped off and taken to the enemy have to do the right prayers and services over the head to make sure that the ghost doesn't attack them. If it's a decent high enough warrior, then the head is sent back in at the proper box with the proper incantations on it. If it's not a high enough warrior, then it's put either up high if it's low class, or on a lower stand, if you like, if it's higher class. It gets tags through its ears, and basically there's rituals and spells to be done over the dead. And then there's also prayers to be given for the dead. So if something, for example, when a lord has had someone killed and they regret it, and it's a bit like it was a bit hasty, they then sometimes have prayers for the dead. The same in the West as we have prayers for the dead, and somebody pays for prayers for the dead. As I said, excuse me guys, it's my pre-Christmas run-up to getting all my videos done, and it's early in the morning. So basically, you've got this idea that the samurai and shinobi live inside of Japanese culture. There's Buddhism, there's Shintoism, and they both deal with the dead in different ways. And then you, as a samurai leader, have to look at the people around you. And when somebody dies on military campaign, you have to give the correct rituals, or have the correct rituals performed for the dead. And when you get back, you worship the dead for those who died with you in battle and their service there, and you give money to their family and say, thank you, your son died in my service, but here's some cash, here's a bit of an extra gift for you. And you have to start, because remember, I always do that break sentence. It's one of the things that annoys me the most. I always break sentence and forget where I am, because I've got like dual conversations going in my head. Basically, see, now I've lost where I am. So what happens is the idea that a samurai is the wealth comes to them and they redistribute it. It's not like a samurai comes and he holds a pot of gold. He gets given a certain amount of wealth, and that gets redistributed to his wife, to his household, to the staff, and nearly everybody had staff. Most people in Japan were in service. They literally were, a little guy serving, or a worker in the field serving a lord. There's lots of, in service jobs. But basically, you would have a sandal bearer, you would have a groom, you would have an assistant, and all these people you would be paying. And if one of them dies at war, you give the family some money, their money, and all that. It's said in the Book of Samurai series that Yoshitsune was loved because When someone died, he was like in tears over them. It's one of those things about samurai, the stoic samurai, except Yoshitsune, one of the greatest samurai of all time, is literally in tears because someone died. And he dedicates a horse to the shrine or the temple, I think, who he gets someone to say prayers to. So whichever holy place he gives it to, he gives this expensive war horse for the prayers, just for his man. And, you know, everybody loves him for it. So there's this idea, there's this idea that you've got to really get to grips with worshipping the dead in samurai culture, Japanese culture, but then in samurai culture. And also, I'm dealing with Alex from Taisha Ryu at the minute. They've just got a new YouTube channel out. They've had a little bit of problem with subscribers. If you've subscribed to Taisha Ryu before, subscribe again, because they've had to move counts, because, long story, but they've had to shift up accounts a bit. But Taisha Ryu actually have a short extract of what to do when your master dies in Koryu. So when Koryu, your master dies, it's got the measurements for the coffin, it's got how the altar is set up, what happens with the swords and the scrolls, and it talks about the mannerisms of people. So there is a funeral for Koryu people who are like lamenting their master. So you know, remember the old Bruce Lee film? What's the film that Bruce Lee's in where it starts with his master's died and they all go there and the Chinese are all, you know, bowing to their master, who's the martial arts master? And it never really clocked to me. I just thought it was family and friends, but actually the school have a funeral for their martial arts master. So when the head of a school dies, you have to have the correct funeral for them. So there you go, guys. That's a quick overview. It's a question I've been asked. I'm trying to answer all the questions that I've been asked, but they're backlogging at the minute. So basically, samurai in mourning, what do? Well, they're Japanese, they're also warrior culture, and there's different ways that you pray for the dead, but on the whole, you must worship the dead. In the school I've reopened, Natori Ryu, we actually have a book of the dead, and anyone who dies gets put in the book of the dead, and we have their picture there. And eventually, when we get a full big dojo, I'm going to have, you know, death tablets and plaques for all the people who died. So far, we've only had one person die, and he was actually a new member. He'd only been with us about 4 or 5 months, but we have him down. We've got his registered number. We've got his photograph. We sent a letter of condolences to his family, and there was a ritual done correctly for him at our temple in Japan by a full Japanese monk, and I made sure that we in Natori Ryu absolutely follow the way of the samurai correctly, and that's what we've done. We have a book of the dead. So if you're interested in joining us, look up Natori Ryu Hub on Facebook and ask for Andrew Thoburn, and follow there. And if you really want to know about samurai old ways, then of course the Book of Samurai is will help you get into track with that, and that's the Secret Scrolls of Natori Ryu. There you go, guys. Enjoy the